lot better since the stag do, because I'm getting married in a couple of weeks time, and stag do slash hen do, sten do happened on Saturday night after I got back from a long week away plastering many hours in the day. So yeah, the neurons in the brain, that synapses canal, it all seems to be firing back up again. I took a couple of days off afterwards from going online at all, and then when I did set my computer and everything back up, it turned out I'd filled it all up with files somewhere, and the thing was stuffed full, and it was something to do with the software editing stuff, and it had backed up a load of files and I didn't know and I had to find them, and then my nephew came over and we got to the bottom of it, and now we are fully operational again. Anyway, I've got another video ready to go up, and this today will be the second part of that, and we've got a pretty easy day, to be honest with you, compared to the last. I did half day Monday because I was suffering so bad from the party night. Tuesday, Wednesday, it's Thursday today. We get this job complete, and then it's on to another one tomorrow, and they've all been very local for me, which is different, complete opposite to the week before. So at the risk of rambling on too much, shall I shut up and we'll get into the job and have a look what we're doing today. So yeah, I am rambling on. So the video I've got waiting to come up, which will probably come up tonight, is, I believe I'm going to be calling that the beauty of SBR. And that's what we've been playing with, because remember, if you're a regular to this channel, you will know I'm an avid PVA user inside polyvinyl acetate, polyvinyl adhesive, SBR, styrene butane polymer resin, I call it. Some people say rubber. Two different bonding agents. Well, have a look at the previous video. And I've done loads of videos. It's the most controversial thing, I think, in plastering. SBR, PVA, which one's better? I don't know. Fight, you know. So yeah, we've been using SBR in this situation because it's a bathroom, and there was an issue with the surfaces, the materials that have been used in there, and it had failed quite badly. So we've tried to strengthen things up using SBR rather than PVA, and I'm quite interested to see how it's all going to set today. So have a look at the previous video, the beauty of SBR. I don't know what I'm going to call this one yet. Well, it doesn't really matter because you're watching it already, doesn't it? So yeah, this will be the second part to the beauty of SBR. Right, let's get in there. So here we are inside the room, which is a bathroom, and well, it will be again. It was, it's not quite a bathroom at the moment, it's more of a building site. It's a very small pokey room, and there was a lot going on in here where the place had been completely tiled, and the tiles had been removed, and there had been a lot of damage to the walls. Now the walls were, it might look like it was old grey browning, which is an undercoat product that you can't get anymore. Now it's hardwall is the equivalent. So we had to repair a lot of it, and being a bathroom and the old walls were so damaged and that browning was very soft, I did seal everything with SBR before I brought it up with hardwall and a combination of bonding, fiscal bonding. I mixed two together and brought it all up and sorted these walls out so that they are in a condition to be finished plastered. This has been dot and dabbed because that whole section had been done, but the matey did that before me, and we've just patched in certain areas. So got the ceiling done yesterday. Got this all sorted out. It took quite a long time to go off because of the SBR, because the SBR kills a lot of suction. It's much more powerful than PVA at killing suction. It does it very efficiently. So the walls took a long time to put in, and before I left yesterday, walls were still a little bit wet, and I did add a tiny little bit of water to the SBR. It was more like 2 parts SBR to 1 part water, and I gave all the walls a complete coating with SBR before I left. And like I say, I don't often play with SBR, so I'm wondering quite what to do today, whether I need to give them another coat of SBR now it's had time to dry up, or whether I can go back on it. And touching the walls, I mean, there still seems to be a bit of a dampness of SBR. I've been taught to understand that SBR takes about 3 or 4 days to properly cure. and start doing its job at 100%. And this does feel like there's a tiny little bit of dampness there. It still feels a little bit porous, so let's just get a little bit of water here on this brush. Let's just rub that on the surface and we'll see if that moisture starts disappearing into that wall, and we'll be able to tell because it will go a darker colour than everything else. I mean, it's not too bad. That should have darkened up. It is darkening up a little bit. But that, I mean, if there was no SBR, that would go like instantly a dark colour. Let's try a bit of a dry bit down here. Yeah, that's drying out quite quickly. I think I'm going to give this all another coat of SBR, and I'm going to kill the suction all right down rather than trying to plaster it as it is without any more sealing to this this floating coat. I mean, it is quite warm in here. It's cold outside, temperatures are down, but we're in here and it's back up at room temperature. So rather than risk having the suction, all the moisture pulled out of that multi-finish is what we're going to be using, rather than risk that and have that pulling too quickly and then I can only get small amounts on, I'm going to SBR the whole lot and kill the suction down a little bit more, which is going to enable me to get bigger areas on before I have to turn around and get back onto it because it's going off on you basically. So let's get on with that, will we? Let's find this somewhere. Going to be rolling SBR and stuff around. Get some gloves on. You don't want to get it on your hands. It'll be on there for about 2 or 3 days. So just in case you don't know, this is a 5 litre tub of SBR. Very, very similar to a 5 litre tub of PVA, except that it's got SBR on it. PVA will have PVA written on it. That's how you can tell. Also, another way you can tell is PVA tends to be quite a bit thicker, and it's the old wood glue, yeah? It's got quite a familiar smell. You would have come across PVA at some time in your life. This is a hell of a lot thinner. Although it's white, it does seem to have a bit of a blue tinge to it, and you'll notice that. Let's see, it's going on, it dries this sort of colour, this bluey sort of colour. It goes on a lot thinner. So that's what we're going to roll all over these walls, and I'm not going to water that down at all. So that small amount should really get me all the way around this room. There we go then, I have literally just whizzed around the whole room, coming in this direction all the way around and finishing up in here. And I can see that this SBR is being drawn into this wall, so I'm glad we did do it. So when it comes to setting, it's really quite important that you get your suction levels, the suction level, how dry and porous the wall is. If you get them all balanced out. Now, some of this is really thick. This bit is thick with fresh plaster. These bits are a little bit thin, and these were the original walls that weren't damaged. So there's not much suction on there. See, the SBR stayed a little bit wet on there. So if we was to put our setting coat on this, of multi-finish, this would hang around if we hadn't treated it with SBR. This would be pulling in really fast. So we need to balance it all out so it all goes off at the same rate. And that's what SBR is really good for doing. Balancing out suction rates very, very efficiently. The only problem is it does it a little bit too efficiently in some cases. So if we was just doing one wall, we probably wouldn't want to use SBR because it's going to kill all the suction, and you'd have to, if you wanted to speed that plaster up, you'd have to put some sort of physical accelerator into the plaster when you mix it. PVA users, it's much more easier to be able to embrace the suction, if you like, because you can adjust the viscosity. And let's say we were just doing that one wall, so I could give that watery PVA and I use the suction just for that one wall to draw and send off that plaster quicker without any additive or anything like that. And if it was just that one wall, that's probably what I would do. But because we've got a whole room to do, SBR is, well, I could have done it in PVA. The main reason we're using SBR is because it's a bathroom. And the one problem with PVA, it's not waterproof, whereas SBR is. So while we're waiting for that SBR to go properly and dry on those walls, I think I need to organise myself in here a little bit and get some stuff out that I don't need anymore. Like rules, snips, staplers, hammers, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we're a little bit more organised in here. I've got my plaster ready to go. As I said earlier, it is quite a small room. Now, this SBR has been on for a certain amount of time, and you can see now all that blue sort of staining, apart from a couple of very minor areas, is pretty much gone. But you know, I'm not really getting anything back onto my fingers, so that's pretty much touch dry, and I think we are in a position where we can get some Thistle multi-finish onto the walls. It's the finish coat. Just if you don't know, it's a very, very fine powder compared to this stuff, which is the undercoat. What's around here? I've got this bucket under here because this is my water supply, which is pumped up and it keeps leaking out, so I've had to put my wash bucket underneath there. So you can see here that's quite a pale colour, so that would indicate that's fairly dry. And we're just splashing some water on there and we're seeing if that changes colour like what we did earlier. And it's not really, so there's an indication of how much suction there is now on these walls after we SBR'd them. So I'm probably going to err on the side of caution. Quite often you're better off, unless you know exactly what you're doing, like if it's going over plasterboard, it's day 2 or 3, you've been in the job. Excuse me. Yeah, err on the side of caution. If you're not too sure how the walls are going to go, knock up a small bit to start off with, because if it does pull in on you, you can get back on it. If you knock up like 2-3 bags straight up and start smashing it all on, and you go, oh, it's going off, you know, you've knocked up so much, you can't waste all that gear. So knock up a small bit, get your sort of like test area on, think, oh yeah, that's all right, or I need to get back on it, and then you can make the judgment, and a much better judgment, whether you can push on and get more on. Hopefully, I mean, it's not going to go off very fast in here because of that SBR. So I'm expecting to get maybe half the room on. I don't know. Oh, let's find out, shall we? You never know. It's never an exact science. So I'm going to knock up probably just under a bag, probably enough to get a couple of easy walls on. I don't know yet. Let's do that. So bang on a whole bag in there, and I tend to knock it up for the first coat just a little bit stiffer. I enjoy the benefits of a stiffer first coat. Right, let's get it on the wall and see what happens. Fork, trowel, little splodge on there to start off with. Move that around your hook. Because we wet the hook up, it can easily hydroplane and slip off. That's why we move it around. Okay, load it up, it's not too bad. And let's get it on the wall. Just break it out the way a bit. There we go. Notice this is a large trowel, and I'm not using the whole of it to put plaster on, because it's such a big trowel. It can be unstable if you try and load the whole trowel up, which you can do. You come at an angle, okay? Load it up with a regular amount. Now, because we've got so much overhang each side, if the trowel ended here and here, when you put that on the wall, this splodges over the front and the back. Because it's a bigger trowel with a smaller amount on it, it doesn't do that, and it tends to go on a lot flatter. So once we've got sort of a certain area on, like so, then you can come and use the whole length of the trowel to flatten in as you go. I find it really helps me out a lot. Tricky right up in that corner. It's pretty important as well you get your internals in and in quite a good condition. You don't want to be coming right up to the top with the first hit. You can take a little bit off and then come right in and give it a wiggle so it's pushing that plaster to the edge of that trowel and into that ceiling line. Okay. Now I know some experienced plasterer going, it's taking forever to do that, but I'm making a video, I'm just showing you how to do it. You know, this is for the less experienced guys. A little lump there, we'll have that out. Whole lot of trout there. So now little things like this, as shape a socket really slows you down. Again, starting away from it, and then when you've got a little bit again coming in and making a nice neat job of it, so it's not splaying out and getting all over everything. Okay, so let's have a little look-see at to where we are now. So first of all, I started getting this wall on. I've put all this on and I've turned back and flattened it all in. That's where we are. So I put this wall on and then I thought I'm just going to carry on, come around into here. Okay, this went on quite thick in some of these places because the walls weren't amazing, which is another benefit of knocking up that first coat a little bit stiffer to handle these kind of less regular surfaces. So when I'm getting to about here, then I'm starting to look in the bucket and I'm thinking I'm getting close to the end. Where can I go with what's left in the bucket, or am I going to knock it back for the second coat? Depends on how this is pulling in and all that, really, isn't it? So I decided I had enough to get this head on, which has actually been two coated with the same gear because I know this was floated. I had to float the bare lintel out, and I only gave it a very, very light SBR, so there was a lot of suction on it, and that will trail up. This over here was plasterboard, so it's the same material. Let's have one coat and still far too wet to put a second coat on. Then I thought, I still got a little bit, what am I going to do? So then I dropped back and got this plasterboard boxing on. There's a little bit of deviation on the bead here, needed dubbing out at the top and the bottom, I knew, so I've got some gear on there to start holding that nice and flat. Now, this SBR hasn't killed as much suction as I was expecting it to. It has balanced out the suction a little bit, but it is pulling in quite a bit faster on this section here because this was all fresh floated hardwool, and this was a tight coat over some existing. But we've got a little bit of time on our hands, so yeah, some areas it's a little bit wetter than others, but it is pulling in. The suction is not dead. Same as here it is. So I've got that left in the bucket. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to give it 5 minutes because matey just brought me a Greg's coffee. I'll give it a little while and I'm probably going to wash the bucket round, keep the dirty water and knock up a lot thinner to put a second coat over everything I just showed you. So I'm quite happy with everything we got on, because what we've got left now is this and this, which is probably about the same amount of gear. So we've got literally half the rim on. Now if we want to go hammer and toms, we could probably push on harder. but I've got all day to do this, and what's the point? I'm going to take it easy, drink my coffee, and I'm probably going to go through and start replying to some comments on YouTube. Okay, so we're back in the room after about 10-15 minutes of giving it some time, and this head up here where I used the suction from the hard wall that we put up there has gone. I've just literally troweled that in. That's done within minutes. This side over here, which was plasterboard, as you can see, is still wet. This stuff here is still a little bit wet, but it wasn't as deep with hardwall as this one. This one's going in much quicker than the other walls. This boxing's plasterboard and is in the same condition as that reveal over there. So even though we SBR'd, as far as I was concerned, SBR'd the life out of this wall, there is still a fair amount of suction on there. So what I'm going to do is put a bit of water in there, wash that round, and knock up a thin, not so thick consistency coat of multi-finish, and put a tight coat over everything that, yeah, we've already got on. Dirty water. Quite a bit wetter than the first coat. Going to give us a nice, tight, regulated coat as a polishing up surface. It's going to be good. Just while we're here, look at the colour difference. These bags of plaster were bought at different times from different places. I think that's, you know, much different colour, isn't it? Okay, so we knocked up enough to get the second coat over everything, and it's not too bad. It's holding quite nicely. Second coat over this, and I had a little bit left over in the bucket. I've cleaned the bucket out now, but that much left on my hawk, but I did have enough to start kind of like what you say, dubbing out. I knew some of this wall here was a bit dodgy in some places, so I've used the leftover plaster to try and flatten things out a little bit. So we're still going to put 2 coats over the entirety of this wall, but where the beads are sticking out a little bit deep in this direction, I've kind of filled them out, but I've managed to stay clear of the actual very nib of the bead, this part of the bead. Okay, if I come up flat over here, you've got a tendency next time you put your another 2 coats on there, you're going to end up bleeding over this line, which you don't want. So all I'm going to do back now is just turn back on all this, flatten it in, maybe a little touch with a wet brush here and there as and when it needs it, but you don't need to put too much water on this second coat this early in its life. Right, we have been round the room and flattened in what we got on the second coat of everything, and it's looking okay. Now, it's very often a good idea and comes in handy to leave a little bit on your hawk just in case there's any accidents. And in this case, not so much an accident, but you have to be careful as well, because I had this reveal one and I went around and laid all this on, then I started back up again and started flattening it in, and this time I come to flatten this in and I thought, I haven't even laid it down, I forgot to put the second coat on it. So because I had that little bit there, I had it, so I've just laid that down and flattened it in at the same time. Okay, let's have a look at troweling up, because we haven't covered this for a while. Wet brush, trowel. I've already come across this far of the wall already. I'm getting this sort of sludge out of there. So what we're doing when we trowel up the wall, when it's ready for it, I tend to brush it on. Okay, and then when we're coming in, we're doing a combination of opening the trowel up and planing it off, and this is what's collecting up this sludge. And in the early parts of the wall, this is what you can use to close the trowel back up and flatten it back in. So we're planing off high points, and then we're filling the low points with the plaster that's coming off. And that is pretty much how to trowel up. And just consistently doing the same thing over and over again. Plane off, opening the trowel up, the angle, put that sludge back on there, close the trowel back up, smooth it in. That is pretty much it. Easier said than done, I know. There we go then, there's another example. See this here, that's right, I was just troweling up this way and I caught the back of the trowel in there and dug right into the wall, look. And if you're trying to fill with fat or something, that's a bit of a nightmare. Which is another reason it's handy to have some of the plaster left on your hawk, which is the same gauge, so we can use this stuff. It's not in front or behind that. A little hole there, just squeeze it in. And there we go. Okay, so we're trialing up again. You can see I've just put my wet brush on it. I can't hold the wet brush and the camera at the same time, but now it's picking up a little bit. You see we can be a lot rougher and put much more pressure on there. And we can actually open that trowel up quite a bit further. So we come down, and then same thing, closing it up to smooth it in. Open it up, close it back in. And see, we're getting this little tide mark, and that's what we're chasing all the way across the wall. So now the age of the wall is a little bit more, and this is the type of residue we're getting out there now, so it's much slimier. This is like proper fat now. This is not so good for filling because there's hardly any decent granules in there, and it's going to shrink back. So we need to do all the filling with the fat or the residue that's going to come out pretty much on the first attempt of taking a wet brush to the wall. Yeah, this is too thin now. Won't do anything. Okay, so we're almost there with these walls. We've got a couple of tiny little spots that are browning up already. We've been with the carbon steel 20x5 the whole time, but now just for the final touch, pretty much treating the wall the same way, or we're switching to this stainless steel trowel, which is flexible. And what this will do, will really smooth the surface over and really close it in and give it a nice little sheen that everybody likes to see on a freshly plastered wall. Okay, so we are virtually done on these walls. I've been across them, and you can see a bit of a sheen. It's a bit hard because I haven't got the light source to show it here. I don't tend to ever use corner trowels. I tend to do most of the work with the actual real trowels, but you will get a couple of little blemishes. There's a little bit in there. So what I tend to do is just get a little inch brush, and you can see the difference it makes to that. I just prefer to do it. There's nothing wrong with corner trowels. I just don't get on with them that well. See, it's a little bit undulated. Okay, I've been procrastinating long enough, messing around with these bits over here, so it's time to get this wall and this wall on, and I'm gonna guess it's pretty much a bag full. So a full bag, 25 kg of plaster, probably gonna take over just over one regular sized builder's bucket. I think that's about 5 gallons, so like 14 litres, so a little bit more than that. So there we go, and I must say I do like my multi a little bit on the chubby side. Just another thing to add, when you do knock up, it's a good idea to do it right next to a wall that you've already plastered, just so you get some nice splodges up there. And it's really handy later on when the room's finished, because somebody could like hang a coat or a towel on them. So we've got all this on with a bag, and I've been round and flattened in as well. Let's see, the sun's catching that there. There's some nasty air bubbles. I'm wondering that's due to using SBR. I remember last time I used SBR, and what kind of turned me off it was quite an excessive amount of air bubbles. It's only on that little bit there. Everything else seems pretty good. So yeah, I've got that left in the bucket. I'm probably going to chuck that because it's a bit too much. It is picking up, look, it's going off, it's still workable, but you know, only just about able to get that on the wall. I want to wash this round, knock up a much wetter coat, but not just yet. I want this to pick up a little bit, especially when you've got air bubbles like that. I need that to go through, because if I try to go over this whilst it's still really wet as it is, those air bubbles is going to push through both coats. If I let this coat pick up a little bit, then when I go over it with the next coat, because there's so much time difference between the two of them, these should not bleed through into the second coat. Here we are, I was just troweling up the second coat, and funny, I've still got some of these air bubbles coming through. Now, I'm not saying that's because of the SBR. I'm just noting, last time I used SBR in such a way, instead of PVA, this happened. Now, these should crush out. These are air bubbles. These should crush out as the wall picks up. Alternative, if they are quite bad, you can just get the corner of your trowel. Let that air out. And that should reduce them down. So this is why they're so annoying. That can we see? The sun is beating through, and I can't see on the screen. All right, I can see that air bubble there now. Okay, so this is what happens. Because the plaster's trapped the air in there, you can go over that, and it's not going to go away until that plaster really picks up. This is why sometimes it's best just to pop them and let that air out. Okay, so there we go. We're pretty much complete in here. And I must say, it's not looking too bad. This was the area where those air bubbles were, and as you can see, we seem to have eliminated them. The sun beats in through the window and hits that at quite a nasty angle, which was probably making them look a lot more worse than they were. They're really showing up by casting the shadow. So yeah, we're all looking pretty good. Beams all nice and sharp. Very important that you get things like that looking all good. Internals right into the corners. I mean, if you're an upcoming plasterer and you're looking at these videos for tutorial, it is well worth paying attention to your internals, because you can have the flattest fall in the world, and if your internals scruffy and all over the place, that's what you're going to notice. And they're starting to dry out a little bit, so yeah, not a big room at all, but quite awkward. And yeah, have a look at the rest of the previous video, which I'll probably be getting up tonight, which will be called Beautiful SBR. So this will be Beautiful SBR Part 2. Alright guys, thanks for getting to the second part of the beauty of SBR. Is it beautiful? I don't know. In some cases, I'm sure it is. Yeah, I am back online, literally, mentally, and with the hardware as well. Everything seems to be working fantastic again after a very, very shaky weekend of partying and stuff. So yeah, I am rejoicing back in sobriety, and like I said earlier in the video, all my neurons and everything and the synapses canal and everything are all seem to be firing as they should do, and as I enjoy them to be doing. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. I guess brief catch up, I guess. Yeah, Facebook is doing really well. Loads of people coming over there and following. YouTube is doing really, really well. Loads of subscribers. It's all picking up. The views picking up. So yeah, if you are a new time viewer, then please do subscribe to the channel. I hate to be one of those people that ask for that stuff, but it really helps with the algorithm and allows my channel to grow and gives me more and more enthusiasm to keep creating these videos. So if you did enjoy it, then please do subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, then don't watch them anymore. It's not so much on YouTube these days. A lot of the comments are much nicer, but since we've just recently started expanding onto Facebook, I just have to adopt the mentality that any troll is a goal, okay? So that's my new little phrase. So yeah, some of the comments are less than polite, but I can take it. I've got quite a thick skin. I've been brought up on a build site from a very young age. There's nothing you can say to me that's going to upset me. I'll tell you. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, we're on a new job tomorrow, so I will probably get a video up of that as well. So I will see you soon on the next video. Take it easy. Oh, by the way, I did forget to add, If you want to come and find us on Facebook, it's exactly the same as the channel name, Plaster 74. I'll see you there, alright? Take it easy.